Okay, let's talk about it. After that absolutely brutal plunge in the crypto market, there is one question on pretty much everyone's mind. And today we're going to dive deep into it because the data, well, it's telling a very different story from the panic you're seeing all over the internet.
This right here, this is the question that's probably been causing some sleepless nights and a lot of anxious portfolio checks. I mean, after such an incredible run, has the party finally, officially, come to a screeching halt?
And look, let's be real, the fear is completely understandable. This wasn't just some minor dip. Bitcoin plummeted. We're talking over $10,000 in a shockingly short amount of time. A drop that sharp is enough to shake even the most seasoned investor. And if you've spent any time online lately, you felt it, right? The whole vibe has shifted. The dominant story is fear, pure and simple. You see countless posts and videos all screaming that the cycle is over. But is the crowd's reaction telling us the whole story? Because this is where our story takes a really interesting turn. While a lot of retail investors are panicking, a very different group of players, the whales, these entities holding massive amounts of crypto, they seem to be making a completely different move. The difference in their behavior is just stark. It's night and day. On one side, you have the crowd, mostly driven by emotion, selling right into the panic. But on the other side, the whales. They seem to view this dip not as a disaster, but as a discount. They're not just holding on for dear life, they are actively buying. This quote really captures the mindset perfectly. One analysis of this whole phenomenon puts it this way. Success often boils down to detaching yourself from the emotional herd. So what are these big players seeing that maybe the rest of the market is missing? Well, to figure that out, we can't rely on feelings or sentiment. We need to follow the money. We have to decode the digital footprints that are left behind on the blockchain and in the exchange order books, because that is where the real story is written. So our first major clue comes directly from on-chain data. This stuff is publicly visible to anyone who knows where to look. And by analyzing the activity in different wallets, we can see this really clear separation in behavior based on how big the wallet is. And the data could not be clearer. For 3 straight days during this downturn, wallets holding less than 100 Bitcoin were on average selling. But what about the wallets with more than 100 Bitcoin? They were net buyers, scooping up over 3,000 BTC. This isn't just a small trend. It's a massive, massive difference in strategy. Okay, so that's the picture we're getting from the blockchain itself. But our second clue comes from the exchanges, where most of the actual panic selling happens. And believe me, the story there is just as telling. Now, before we see the data, let's just quickly define what we're talking about here. We're looking at large spot orders. These are not your average retail buys. No, these are massive, instant purchases that signal a major player is making a very strategic move to snap up assets right now. And here's the bombshell. After being pretty much dormant for half a year, these huge buy orders are suddenly lighting up the order books again. So that begs the question, why now? Why at the exact moment of peak fear are the biggest players stepping back in so aggressively? On-chain data and exchange orders, they paint a pretty compelling picture, right? But they're not the only pieces of this puzzle. We need to look at some of the broader signals to add a little more context to what we're seeing. So at first glance, the Bitcoin ETF data, it looks bearish. It really does. We've had 6 straight days of money flowing out, with huge amounts leaving these funds. That sounds bad, doesn't it? But when we look closer, a really subtle but critical detail starts to emerge. You can see the trend right here, yeah? Money is still flowing out, but the rate of that outflow, the speed, is slowing down. The selling pressure seems to be easing up day by day. Now, this could be an early sign that the worst of the ETF-driven selling is behind us. All right, let's move to our next piece of evidence, and this one is fascinating. It involves a very specific, massive wallet known in the community as an ancient whale, basically an entity famous for making these huge, incredibly well-timed trades in past market cycles. So what did this legendary trader do during the crash? They didn't panic sell. In fact, they didn't really do much at all. They only added a relatively tiny position of about 100 Bitcoin. In the world of whales, sometimes what they don't do speaks louder than what they do. This suggests a posture not of fear, but of patience, just watching, waiting, maybe for an even better entry point before making their big move.
So, what do we make of all this? We have all this conflicting information. The market seems to be telling two completely different stories at the exact same time. Is this the end of the line, or is it an elaborate trap designed to shake out the weak hands?
This slide just lays out the dilemma perfectly. On one hand, you have every reason to be fearful. That massive price drop, the retail selling, money flowing out of ETFs. But on the other hand, you have this compelling evidence of strategic buying. Whales are buying on chain, huge orders are back on exchanges, and the ETF selling is slowing down. It's like two different realities. And this leads us to a fascinating thought. With so much new institutional money in the game, so many different players, maybe the old rules just don't apply anymore. Maybe what we're seeing is a new kind of market cycle, where those violent, long bear markets of the past are replaced by shorter, sharper shakeouts designed for accumulation. And that really leaves us with the ultimate question. Was this crash the final nail in the coffin for the bull market? Or are we actually witnessing a masterclass in market psychology, a calculated plan by the biggest players to acquire Bitcoin at a massive discount? The data, at least for now, suggests we shouldn't just follow the panic. Thanks for tuning in.